They weren't built to fit in. Some were loopholes on wheels. Others, pure mechanical experiments that shouldn't have worked. But they did, for a moment. Then they vanished. Outlawed, forgotten, or simply too strange for their own good. From the pickup that thought it was a sports car to the one that looked straight out of science fiction. These are the 10 rarest and weirdest pickups you never knew existed. Number 10, 1989 Dodge Dakota Convertible. Imagine buying a pickup in the late 1980s, and it came with a convertible roof. Yes, Dodge actually did it. The 1989 Dakota Convertible wasn't a custom job, it was factory built. The first and only soft-top pickup sold in modern American history. Working with American Sunroof Corporation, Dodge literally cut the roof off a standard Dakota Sport, reinforced the frame, and added a manual folding ragtop. It came in bright colors, wore sporty decals, and looked more like a concept car than something your neighbor would drive to work. Under the hood, buyers got a modest 2.5-liter 4-cylinder or optional 3.9-liter V6 paired to a manual or automatic transmission. It wasn't fast, but that wasn't the point. It was about vibes. This was a truck for people who wanted to haul lumber on Friday and hit the beach on Saturday. Unfortunately, the idea was too strange for its own good. Dealers didn't know how to sell it, and customers didn't know what to do with it. Production ended after just 2 years, and fewer than 4,000 units ever rolled off the line. Today, it's a cult classic, a symbol of when automakers still took wild swings just to see if they could. And speaking of wild swings, the next truck on our list tried to blend muscle car power with pickup practicality, and the result was absolute chaos. Number 9, 2005 Dodge Ram SRT-10. It wasn't built to haul lumber, it was built to haul everything else off the line. In 2005, Dodge engineers lost their minds in the best way possible. They looked at the Viper's 8.3-liter V10 and thought, what if we dropped that into a pickup? The result was the Ram SRT-10, a factory-built monster that made 0 cents and 500 horsepower. 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. Quarter mile in the 13s. Top speed north of 150 miles per hour, from a truck that still had a tow hitch. It came with a Tremec 6-speed manual, Viper spec brakes, and suspension tuned to tame its muscle car heart. Every drive felt like a dare. One wrong twitch of the throttle and the rear tires vanished in smoke. No one needed a Viper-powered truck, but Dodge built it anyway, and because they could. And in a world of hybrids and rising gas prices, that act alone made it legendary. Only about 10,000 were ever made. Today, it's a collector's fever dream. Raw, loud, and gloriously pointless. Because sometimes, the best ideas are the ones that make absolutely no sense. And if America built the loudest truck on Earth, Australia decided to one-up it with a ute so fast it embarrassed Ferraris on the freeway. Number 8, 2011 HSV Maloo R8. If America built a muscle truck, Australia built a muscle myth. The HSV Maloo R8 wasn't just a pickup, it was a statement. Born from Holden's performance division, this beast blurred the line between a sports coupe and a workhorse. Under the hood sat a 6.2-liter LS 3V8, roaring out 425 horsepower through a 6-speed manual straight to the rear wheels. That gave it a 0 to 60 time of under 5 seconds, putting it in the same league as Ferraris, and it had a bed. Visually, it looked more like a street fighter than a truck. Flared fenders, dual exhausts, Brembo brakes, and tires so wide they looked stolen from a race car. Inside, you got leather, digital gauges, and the unmistakable feeling that you were driving something the laws of practicality forgot. But here's what made it truly weird. Nobody used it like a truck. The Maloo had a bed, yes, but no one was throwing toolboxes in it. This was a performance car pretending to be a pickup, and Australia absolutely loved it. Sadly, it never made it to the US. A few gray market imports exist, but the Maloo remains one of those you-had-to-be-there legends. It wasn't just fast, it was a symbol of Australian car culture at its wildest. And while Holden was busy turning pickups into track weapons, Honda went the other direction, building one so smooth it made truck purists furious. Number 7, 2012 Honda Ridgeline Sport. While Dodge and Holden were out flexing horsepower, Honda quietly asked a different question. What if a pickup didn't have to act tough to be tough? Enter the 2012 Honda Ridgeline Sport, the truck that made purists grind their teeth. Instead of body-on-frame construction like every other pickup, the Ridgeline used a unibody design, the same structure you'd find in a family SUV. It drove smoother, handled tighter, and rode more comfortably than anything in its class. But to hardcore truck fans, that was blasphemy. Under the hood was a 3.5-liter V6 making 250 horsepower, enough for daily work and weekend play, but not burnout contests. The bed was small, the design was strange, and the shape looked more minivan than muscle. Yet it came with genius touches no one else had. A dual-action tailgate that swung open or dropped down, and a hidden in-bed trunk big enough to stash tools, groceries, or camping gear. It was clever, it was comfortable, and it completely ignored what everyone thought a pickup should be. Truck traditionalists mocked it, owners loved it, and a decade later, the Ridgeline proved them all wrong by outlasting most of its critics. It wasn't weird because it failed. It was weird because it worked. And while Honda was redefining what practical meant, another brand across the world was doing the opposite, building a truck so tiny, so odd, it barely qualified as one. Number 6. 2010 Proton Jumbuck. Some trucks are born from innovation. This one was born from confusion. Meet the Proton Jumbuck, Malaysia's attempt at building a pickup for Australians. It wasn't designed in Detroit or Tokyo, but in a small factory that thought, what if we mix a sedan with a utility bed and hope for the best? Built from the Proton Wira, which itself borrowed parts from an old Mitsubishi Lancer, the Jumbuck was a Frankenstein of familiar pieces. It had front-wheel drive, a 1.5-liter engine pushing a heroic 85 horsepower, and a payload barely strong enough to carry a fridge. And yet, people loved it. It was cheap, quirky, and oddly charming, the kind of vehicle that looked like a student project that accidentally made it to production. With its plastic bedliner, oversized mud flaps, and cartoonish stance, it became an icon of rural Australia. Not because it was great, but because it was there. Motoring journalists roasted it, city drivers ignored it, but out in the countryside, farmers bought them in droves. It wasn't powerful, it wasn't fast, and it definitely wasn't cool, but it got the job done, and that made it unforgettable. Today, spotting one outside Australia or Southeast Asia is like seeing a kangaroo in Times Square. If you ever do, stop and take a photo. You've just seen one of the rarest survivors of automotive experimentation. And while Proton built pickups that looked like cartoons, Mazda was quietly engineering something far more insane, a truck powered by an engine that barely made sense on paper. Number 5. 1990 Mazda Rotary Pickup. In the 1970s, Mazda did something nobody else dared to try. They built a pickup with a rotary engine. It was called the Mazda Rotary Pickup, or simply the REPU, and it was unlike anything else on the road. Instead of pistons, it used Mazda's famous 1.3-liter 13B rotary engine, the same one found in their RX sports cars. It revved higher, sounded meaner, and made the kind of smooth, buzzing power delivery no truck had ever experienced before. It was quick, it was light, and it was weirdly refined. The tach redlined around 7,000 RPM, and the exhaust note was pure sports car symphony. But there was one massive problem: gas mileage. Even by 1970s standards, it drank fuel like a muscle car with a hole in the tank. And when the oil crisis hit, buyers ran in the opposite direction. Only around 15,000 were ever sold, mostly in North America, before Mazda quietly ended production. But here's the twist: enthusiasts didn't forget it. Today, surviving REPU trucks are holy grails for rotary fans, combining utility, sound, and insanity in one oddly balanced package. It was too weird to succeed, but too cool to die. And while Mazda was busy chasing revs, Dodge was doing the exact opposite, building a pickup so stripped down it barely qualified as a truck at all. Number 4. 1982 Dodge Rampage, the car that wanted to be a truck. If the 1980s had a motto, it was, "Why not?" And Dodge took that very seriously. In 1982, they released the Dodge Rampage, a front-wheel drive unibody pickup built on the same platform as the Dodge Omni hatchback. That's right, it shared DNA with an economy car, not a work truck. Under the hood was a humble 2.2-liter 4-cylinder making just 96 horsepower paired with a 5-speed manual. It wasn't going to outrun anything, but it was weirdly practical. It could haul a lawnmower, a small couch, or maybe your dog, if he didn't mind the wind. The Rampage looked like something out of a Saturday morning cartoon. Low stance, tiny bed, sloping roofline, and a vibe that said, half car, half dare. It handled corners better than most pickups and was surprisingly fun to drive, just not something anyone asked for. Buyers didn't know what to make of it. Truck fans thought it was too small, car fans thought it was too big, and dealers just hoped someone would take one home out of curiosity. After only 3 short years, Dodge pulled the plug, but the Rampage's legacy lives on as as a cult favorite among collectors who loved the strange, the forgotten, and the bold. Because in an era when everyone played it safe, Dodge built something that made no sense. And that's exactly why it deserves to be remembered. And while Dodge was experimenting with front-wheel drive weirdness, another brand decided to take that energy to the next level by chopping the roof clean off. Number 3, 1962 Jeep FC 170. When Jeep set out to design a pickup for the future, they accidentally built something that looked straight out of the Jetsons. Meet the Jeep Forward Control Series and its standout model, the 1962 FC 170. This wasn't your typical pickup. The driver sat directly above the front axle with the engine jammed beneath the cab. No hood, no nose, just a wall of glass, steel, and mechanical noise. The goal was efficiency, maximum cargo space, and minimum length, but the result looked like an industrial forklift had been given off-road ambitions. Still, it worked. The FC-170 had four-wheel drive, solid axles, and the same go-anywhere attitude Jeep was famous for. Farmers loved it, construction crews used it, and anyone who saw it had questions. But that forward control design came at a cost. In crashes, drivers were the first point of impact, and that earned the FC its reputation as both brilliantly compact and mildly terrifying. Production lasted only a few years before Jeep retired the idea, but the FC-170's boxy charm lived on, inspiring everything from 4x4 campers to concept vehicles decades later. Today, spotting one is like seeing a rolling time capsule. Proof that even back then, Jeep wasn't afraid to get weird. And while Jeep's truck looked like it came from the future, Chevrolet was trying to do the opposite, bringing class to the pickup world long before anyone thought that was a good idea. Number 2, 1957 Chevrolet Cameo Carrier. Before trucks became luxury status symbols, Chevrolet tried something revolutionary, and the world had no idea what to do with it. This was the 1957 Chevrolet Cameo Carrier, one of the first pickups to ever mix style with utility. At a time when trucks were built for farms and dirt roads, Chevy dared to add chrome trim, two-tone paint, carpeting, and even a radio. It was the first pickup that looked as good pulling into a city diner as it did hauling hay. The secret was in its design. The rear fenders were fiberglass panels molded into steel bedsides, creating sleek, car-like lines that made every other pickup look like a box on wheels. Under the hood, buyers could order a V8 engine, 4-speed manual, and all the bells and whistles usually reserved for sedans. But that ambition backfired. Farmers didn't want to scratch it, city buyers didn't want to drive a truck. The Cameo ended up stranded between two markets that didn't exist yet, the working class hauler and the modern luxury pickup. Only around 2,200 were built in 1957, making it one of the rarest production Chevys of the decade. Collectors today see it for what it was, the truck that predicted the future. Because when Chevy built the Cameo, they didn't just make a truck, they accidentally invented an entire segment. And while the Cameo was too pretty for the 1950s, our final entry took weird to a level no one could have imagined. A truck that looked like a sci-fi prop broke the internet and wasn't even road legal. Number 1, 2021 Tesla Cybertruck. Every generation has one vehicle that redefines what a truck can be. In 2021, that moment looked like a glitch in the Matrix. The Tesla Cybertruck wasn't designed to blend in. It was designed to shock you. Sharp edges, flat panels, and a raw stainless steel body that looked more like a stealth bomber than a pickup. It didn't whisper innovation, it shouted it through broken glass. When it rolled onto the stage, people didn't know whether to laugh, cheer, or question reality. And that was the point. Tesla had built a truck so bizarre, so unapologetically futuristic, it made everything else on the road look like ancient history. Underneath the polygonal shell sat power numbers that read like science fiction. Up to 800 horsepower, a sub 3 second 0 to 60, and a towing capacity north of 14,000 pounds. It wasn't just fast, it was absurd. Some called it ugly, others called it genius, but no one ignored it. The Cybertruck proved that pickup trucks could be art, armor, and attitude all rolled into one. It wasn't built to fit the mold, it was built to shatter it.